I am delighted to welcome Professor Ying Ding to the high school. Dr. Ying Ding is an associate professor at the School of Informatics and Computing at Indiana University. Previously, she worked as a senior researcher at the University of Innsbruck in Austria and as a researcher at the Free University of Amsterdam. She's been involved in various NIH and EU-funded semantic web projects. She's published over 170 papers in journals, conferences, and web workshops. She is co-editor of a book series called Semantic Web Synthesis by Morgan and Claypool Publisher. She's also author of the book Intelligent Information Integration in B2B Electronic Commerce, and a co-author of book chapters in the book MIT Press book, Spinning the Semantic Web, and then another one called Towards a Semantic Web, Ontology-Driven Knowledge Management. We clearly know where her research specialization is. She's also editorial board member of 4 ISI Index top journals in information science and semantic web. Her current research interests include social network analysis, semantic web, citation analysis, knowledge management, and application of web technology. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my research here. I think everybody can hear me, right? Okay. So today I'm going to talk about knowledge graph connecting big data semantics. So I will start to talk about my vision, actually, especially from the semantic perspective, how changes will happen in the future in the search. Then I use 2 use cases to explain this vision. And I will end my talk by highlighting some potential challenges. So first of all, I think one of the biggest problems in big data time is actually how people and computer dealing with information. So computer tend to dealing with information as strings. It doesn't care. So if I say, but human tend to deal with things, information as things. For instance, if I search Berkeley, I will think Berkeley as a university, right? So, or maybe some of you search Berkeley as George Berkeley as a philosopher, or some other, maybe Berkeley as city. So when we search, we have something already in our mind, what you want to search. But machine actually treat all this Berkeley as a string. You know, machine doesn't care Berkeley is a city, Berkeley is a university, Berkeley is a person. It just count how many times string appear in the website, and whether for like a Google they have PageRank to see whether they have important neighbors to cite them, to link them, then they rank this. So basically, we would love to see this kind of result when people search, right? What's the difference between strings? What's the difference between strings and things? Okay, so string and things, actually you add metadata, string become thing, right? So for instance, for Berkeley, I add city as a tag. Then Berkeley become a thing called city, right? So I add Berkeley as a university tag. So just put the tag. Okay, then Berkeley become a university. So what is metadata? Metadata is data about data. Actually is contextual information. I add a data, contextual information to data and become things. This is the same thing like data, information, knowledge. We all heard about this. So what is data? So today I will say 40. 40 could be everything, right? Could be 40 apples, 40 students, 40 paper I have to read, or some deadline by 40 something, right? So it's data, okay? Then if I add 40 Fahrenheit, that brings to information. So it means what? It's temperature, right? So everybody understand? Then if I say 40 Fahrenheit in Berkeley, February 26th, now, 2014, people think, oh, it's kind of cold. I need to add jacket, you know, chilly, right? If I say 40 Fahrenheit in Bloomington in February in 2014, everybody will have a big, big smile because you all know we have very tough winter there. So this is the knowledge. So the difference just between 40, you add different level of contextual information, and that bring data to information to knowledge. Think about, so now Google launched Knowledge Graph in 2012. So now it's only 2 years later. We see lots of things here. Actually, 90% of information actually generated in the last 2 years. Let's think forward. Okay, what will be the next 2 years or even next 5 years? We might get lots of things, right? Okay, how do we handle this? Okay, let's say I want to ask you, if you don't have LinkedIn profile, please raise your hand. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, like people say, like, especially in Bay Area, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you like computationally, you don't exist. This says, okay, so what is the most important thing in LinkedIn? So I think everybody has LinkedIn profile. You go there to, type shiny CV, nice pictures, So, but what is the most important thing in LinkedIn? It's actually connections, right? How many connections you have? What is connections? Connection is relationship. Okay, if we have too many things, in the future, I think we need to care a lot of relationships. So relationship is actually a function. A function is an edge connecting two nodes, right? So relationship give us very interesting. For instance, I search Elinor Ostrom. We actually at IU very proud of her, and you at Berkeley proud of Oliver Williamson, and both of them won 2009 Nobel Economic Science Prize, right? So when I search from Google, I search Elinor Ostrom. I see the books she published. I see the other person. They say people also search for. Of course, if you look at this, they have hidden a lot of different relationships. For instance, so they might be the co-author, right? So Vincent Ostrom is the co-author and also husband of Elinor Ostrom. So they have actual different information. And these three people provide a scientific foundation for Elinor Ostrom's work. So you can see they have actually hidden different information about this, right? Okay, so this is a relation. So relationship matters in the future. I think in the near future, all this search engine has to deal with relationship. Okay. Then let's think about even further. Suppose one day we have a lot of relationship, right? Then what is next? It's like from data, information, knowledge. What will be the next? Okay. I think next is subgraph. It's a contextual. What is a contextual information for graph? It's the path. It's a subgraph. It's how these two nodes are connected. Actually, before I come here, I did my homework. So I checked how I connect to Marty Hurst. Okay. So I found from my LinkedIn, I have like 14 direct connection with her. So this is what? This is a subgraph between me and Marty, right? So I know. So if I want to know more information about of Marty, I might ask some people I know, right? So I also checked me with my host, John. So unfortunately, we don't have any direct connection. But I do found like there's one very critical person that he or she can connect us. So this is a subgraph. This gives you enriched information about how the relationship of these two persons and how they've been related. And this also helps you to identify which point is a focal point for you, right? So I will, like, in the future, change. We are now search engine about strings. We actually move to things now, right? With the Google Knowledge Graph. And in the future, I think relationship matters. Even, Facebook has the, graph search. You can search how you've been connected. And once we have enough relationship, we want to know how the contextual information about this relationship, subgraph. So I want to show you this example, very interesting. So this is Elinor Ostrom, as I say, she's from economic science at IU. And Philip Manza, he actually is computer science program professor. So actually, campus-wise, we're really located in opposite corners. So it's very hard to us to communicate. So it's very hard to know how these two persons actually connected. So when I see the connection, you can see that Elinor Ostrom actually had co-authored with many people. One of them called Michael Jackson, And Michael Jackson has grants with Philip Mensa. So this means if we don't connect data about publication with grants data, we will never find this connection. I think connecting information is very important, and connecting data semantics is also important for you to find connections. So let's go back to my talk. Like what I said, so we change from string to things. What is things? Things, entities. So entities actually are everywhere. Here, I want to show you two examples, how I deal with these entities based on the vision I view that change in the search. So the first things, what are the common entities on the web is people, organization, books, music, right? So I talked about my first example. My second example, actually entity in the medical domain, life science. So they are all gene, drug, disease. Okay, let's start the first example. So VIVO is a project funded by NIH that time in 2009. It's called the U24 program. That time they have $25 million to have the vision that they want to be able to connect data and share in medical school to facilitate scientific collaboration and finally to enable scientific innovation. So what is the most important thing for scientific collaboration? Person, right? Resource. So you don't need to buy the same machine again and again in your lab, right? Your colleague across the corridor already had that machine, so you can share the machine, right? So that time, so they give half to different groups. So one group to us called VIVO. We actually try to think about how we connect people. And the other half gave to Eagle Eye project, so head by Harvard School of Medicine, and they try to connect resource. And after this is a 2-year funding, but with 1-year extension. After this 1-year extension, we had 1-year connect, we call data connect, actually try to merge these two ontology together so we can share resource with people and people with resource. So my group, so that time we have 7 partners. The goal is we try to integrate data from annual faculty annual report. Okay, so this is also write the data, but you know when you submit annual reports, you can be in all kinds of different format, right, in different schemas. So we have to develop a kind of glue to glue all the 7 partners. We have 7 partners, faculty annual report together. So we develop ontology. So that time, the ontology, so we have actually 2 ontology, one for people, the other one for resource. We view this as a glue. So when you try, so ontology is nothing but a schema. It's more enriched schema than relational database. Relational database schema is flat. Ontology allows you to build hierarchy. So that's it. And you can, relational database has no object properties. So it means the entities connect with literal, okay, strings. And ontology allow you to have object properties, means you can connect 2 concepts together. That's it. That's the only thing difference between these 2. And that time, when you create ontology, you want to connect data, you want to share data. When you want to share data, you never reinvent the wheel, right? You don't create ontology from scratch. You want to look at what are the existing ontology. You can reuse. Reuse is one of the powerful ways for interoperability. Okay, so we look at what are the important ontology we could reuse. Because for us, we want to facilitate scientific collaboration. So for collaboration, you need to know the domain, right? So you need to know how people handle research in different areas. So for us, it's mainly focused on medical domain. Therefore, we connect with domain ontology, like biomedical resource ontology, and some ontology from BioPortal, or some ontology from NCBU, actually, at Stanford University. Okay, then for us, it's important for person. So person and their output, right? The output is project events, right? So event, we don't want to create a new event ontology. We use existing ontology. For instance, like DOAP is a project, so model project is being widely adopted. And publications, faculty generate publications. So whereas VIVO, BIBO actually already public, popular available database ontology model, bibliographic information. So, and SCOC, SCOC's SKOS for taxonomy, and the doubling call again for person, friend of friend for person, doubling call for articles. So we try to reuse existing ontology as much as possible. And then we create linked data. So we link the data, we also connect with other existing linked data, so we could be able to provide some service. So this is the overall architecture about developing this ontology. So let's go back to think about how I want to develop ontology to be able to model network of scientists. What is most important for this network structure? Most important is these people, right? People generate output, right? So we try to have output. And the relationship between people and output, okay? So these are the major three important structure we need to consider. And we also think it's important how people be valued, faculty members being valued in our system. So you often look at them from three perspectives. What is their research, right? What is their teaching? What is service? So actually we have a class, or you can say concept that relate to research. So document they published, grants they acquired, and project they're running. And data set they curated, and in the medical school, even research lab is counted as kind of research output. And teaching, for what kind of course you teach, what kind of role you play as teacher. And service, you're editorial board member, you're program committee member. And the most important thing actually is expertise. So model expertise is extremely difficult because actually domain specific. We couldn't find a unified taxonomy that describes everything. It's impossible, right? So when we go to the medical science, we look at the UMLS or mesh terms. When we go to computer science, we look at the ACM or taxonomy. When we go to other domain, we look at other things. So basically, we use Scott's concept as a placeholder that could be plugged in to other taxonomies to be able to model expertise, okay? So, yeah, this graph is kind of overwhelming. I assume you won't see details, but actually pay attention just to color. Okay, so this actually shows important things for reuse existing ontology. We really spend a lot of time to see how we be able to reuse ontology. So you can see uphand the color. So it's a kind of the light yellow part actually from BIBO. This is the output, information resource, how people generate paper, music score, exhibition, these are the things. And we have a kind of this purple red color. This is actually coming from Eagle Eye from another project, the model resource. So we try to align these two ontology as much as we could. And for the event ontology, we use event ontology for the project you're running, for the conference you organize, you attend, you present paper there. For SCOX, SKOS, we use concept as a placeholder to be able to plug to different domain taxonomy. And the light blue actually from us, unless we couldn't find anything else, we generate class for this. Okay, and the green one is very important. Person, you can see the centralized because the person is the central point of this network, right? So it's for modeling purpose. So the person we use friend of friend, and friend of friend also provide organization. We use organization from friend to friend. So this is the ontology we create. Actually, we can't fit everything in the one graph. We have around like 200 different class and 400 different properties including data properties and object properties. So let's just narrow down to see the person. We really interest person because person is the central point of the network. So the person actually has lots of different properties. For instance, you have identity properties, you have a contact information, you have their background, their credential, their education background, and the research, the PI, co-PI on what, and the research overview, and the teaching, and affiliation, and publication. So this is actually go through these three perspectives: surveys, research, and teaching to model a person. One of the challenge we have is actually how we could be able to model property of a property. So in relational database, when you model property of properties, you lift the property into a table. You call it association table. Then you add a property to it. Here, we adopt the same strategy. We lift this as a class. For instance, current position, a past position. So you have, say, a person has position, whatever, right? And this position has a starting time, anytime. So you don't want to manually update the database. You know, every time when person moves to another university, you have to update. You will have a nightmare, and that will finish your job. You would love to optimize all this process. So how we could add property over property? So we lift this has a position as a row. Row is a class. Then we can add starting time, anytime to it. Another thing people care is the order of the author, because in certain university, even in China, they really have a formula that which your first author in which impact of the journal, and plus and divide by something, and then you have a score. Then it's for your evaluation, right? So actually, the people really care the author. Also, order is the same thing. It's the property of the property. So we lift author as a class, then we add the order to it. So this is how we handle property of property. So we use row as a class to handle this. I can show you one example. So you can see the row. Normally, it is modeled as properties, but now we lift this as a class. So you can see lots of rows here. And for instance, you have a person has a research things. That things has a row called PI on some project, PI row. The PI row is realized in the project, so your PI on certain project. Of course, adding row will make the path longer. You will have more triples. Yeah, that is our trade-off. Okay, so this is an example about row. And we have another challenge is you can never define or design ontology that fits for everyone. It's impossible, right? So even for our little 7 partners, we have so much variety we have. For instance, like a doctoral researcher. Some university treat as a faculty member. Some university treat not. Some university even treat them as a student. So we cannot really give that details. So we say, okay, we try to meet all your needs, but we can't. If you very specific, that is feature only existing in your university, you can do localization to extend this ontology. So how we did localization? The localization, actually, we use namespace. So simply, we give the call, this is the URL for the call VIVO ontology. And for Indiana, if I need to add, like, Indiana professional staff, which is unique at Indiana University. So we say you create your own namespace. So this is our own namespace just for Indiana. So then you can create an extension. So for instance, this is the top class called person, friend of friend person. Okay, has subclass from call ontology called non-academic, and then call ontology stopped. And you can further extend, use your own namespace, extend, say professional staff is subclass of non-academic, and then you can further extend further. Say administrative service actually is a subclass of professional staff. But when you search, when you go to IU portal, VIVO at IU portal, you could search further because these things are modeled there. But if you go to federated search, I will show you later, this won't be there because federated search stops at the call level. Just actually you search a common things among these 7 partners. Okay. So I will now show you one example. So for instance, how I model research. This is one paper published by Professor Kati Bonner with other student or a collaborator. So how we could be able to model this. So this is the triple. So this means the first URL is an instance. The idea type means instance. It's an instance of a faculty member. So it means this is a faculty. And the same person, because the same URL, has author in authorship, has author. And then in this individual, we don't know what is this individual N74 means. So, but here next to triple says N74 actually is an instance of authorship. So authorship. Then this authorship linked to information resource. and link to this individual. And this individual is an article. So this means this person generate information resource as it's this article, okay? And this is another person because with different URL. And this is an instance of a non-academic. So it's not faculty member, it's non-academic. And this same person has author in authorship. And this is another authorship. This authorship has author rank, number second. So it means she is a second author. And that links into the same paper. So it means they co-author this to write this paper. So actually, this is a graph. What is a graph? Two nodes with the edge. So these are two nodes, and this the property is the edge. So basically, from this you can form a heterogeneous graph. So basically, you can, if you put them as RDF graph, that means the first one. So this individual is same thing, is a faculty member. That individual is non-academic, and they co-author a authorship. Then authorship connect to these articles. So this is just one example. Okay. So actually, we convert all our 7 partners' faculty annual report into RDF. And then we loaded to provide a federated search. Of course, graph data has different query language, not like SQL for relational database. Graph, for RDF graph, we call Sparkle is the query language. Sparkle query language is a graph pattern search language. So basically, when you want to write Sparkle query, you need to write a path pattern. So you need to path pattern. Then you search all the instance that meets this path pattern. The office is like chicken egg issue if I don't know the path pattern, because path pattern itself is already discovered process. You need to know the path pattern, right? So most time people don't know. So it's, and also Sparkle is very hard to write. People say you have to have a PhD degree to be able to write a Sparkle query. So we struggle a lot. So we actually develop a Sparkle query builder that can help you to write, to form a simple Sparkle query, so you don't need to write them. And this has been implemented already in the release since 1.4 release. So I just want to show you this demo. So it's a demo. It's created by my team. So actually, I want to just show you. So we have a thing, right? So, and I just want to show you, say, for instance, I want to know all the paper published by Kati Bonner in 2005, how I can write this. So first, I start with a person as a class, add properties. And the person has name, right? So I say name Kati. It's just a demo, okay? And then person, she has publications. Because publication is a predicate as object properties, so it connects to another class. So research paper. And this research paper, I want title, okay? I also want publication date, okay? I only want 2005. Okay, so that's what I want. Okay, then you hit this button, they create Sparkle query for you. So it's a very lengthy. Yeah, ignore the detail. If you want to talk about in detail, we can talk about offline. Then you hit query, and you get her publication in 2005. So this is a demo. But for the real version, you can download VIVO 1.4 and to experience that. And we also provide federated search. So it's called VIVO search. So VIVO search. So for instance, I want to find who is working on stem cell. So actually, you can see this as a faceted browser. Like we divide the result into different category facet, like people, publication, organization, activity, event, course, and equipment. These are all major class in our ontology, so it's very easy to create facet here. And we also tell you where they're from. So here, the result is by institution. You can see from WashU, Harvard, Cornell, and other. So suppose we are interested in one of the person. I want to look at his profile. So you can click this. Might take some time. Okay, great. So actually, you can see his profile. This is all RDF triples. So this little RDF triple, actually, you can we call it portable RDF. So you can actually carry with you as long as you move to different institution. You have this with you. So then, as that institution has a VIVO profile, you can just dump to their system, and you have your VIVO profile. Okay, and the position, research area, and publication. Okay, and you can teaching course. So this is the background contact information. So you can see this is unified profiling for scientists, and you can also see their co-author network. So you want to. So co-author network was built based on sending Sparkle query. The goal we send Sparkle query to the database to collect all the co-authors and create a network. So it might take some time, and good thing is if in this network they have a co-author, the co-author also has a VIVO profile. You can go there to see her co-author network and her profile. So we can see he co-author with many different people here. And suppose I want to see her, I just click her. Then I can go to her VIVO profile to see her information. So think data are connected, okay? So this is about how we deal with entities on the web, especially how we model network of scientists. Now I want to move to a second example. So second example is focus on entity in the medical domain. Medical domain has a really lot of big data. So they have like millions of compound and bioactivity data, drugs. The good part of this data, they have actually two kinds of data. Most domain, so they have two kinds. They have a structured data in relational database. That data is actually experiment data. So events like KEGG, UniPro, all these are talking about protein pathway, and they actually experimentally test out and stored in the database. Okay, and you have 22 million PubMed articles, and 2 million of them are full text called PubMed Central, right? But their website claim is 2 million, but when we request to go there download, it's only 750,000 articles. So anyway, so you have a structured data and unstructured data. You have textual data and database, and you actually can cross-validate this, right? Second thing, they are not only have so many different entities, they also have enriched relationship. For instance, how a drug, a compound, connect to a gene can be enriched in different examples. For instance, a gene and a drug co-occurred many times in the abstract, or co-occurred many times in the methodology section, or they have their different. They have a biological assay, this IC50 relationship, or they have some statistical testing relationship, or they can have some different docking relationship. So they can have also some different crystal structure kind of relationship. So they actually, just two entities, they can have lots of different variety of relationship. So this gives us a great example that we can look around, okay? So our vision to deal with big data in life science, actually, we start with this. So we start with data. So we have a database, we have a PubMed literature data. So we want to take advantage of both them to create a network of data and relationships. So it's a heterogeneous network. And based on this, we want to develop some tools, algorithms to be able to discover something. And we even want to go further, want to predict something. And we want to predict future, but it's hard to predict future, but we still want, right? Okay, and then we hope this will provide some new biomedical insights. So let's give you example how we did that. Okay, these are actually, they're around more than 1,700 database openly available in medical, in life sciences. So you can see some of them like PubChem, Drug Bank, PharmGKB, they actually talk about a variety of different entities, start from drugs, protein, even to patient EMR data, right? And this data actually stored in so many different formats: text, table, database, XML. So how should we be able to, integrate all these things together? So we thought we need a data format. At least we don't want them to store in different format. We want to find a data format. And we take RDF. So RDF is a triple. For instance, it's just like subject. This is subject, predicate, object. Okay. So this is nothing new. So the data model for RDF is a triple. This is really nothing new. Because actually we speak our natural language. It's a triple. So I give a talk. So I is the subject. Give is predicate. And the talk is object. The difference is we don't want to have string. We think string is dead end. It's dead. We want to use UI. Because UI can, oh, I'm sorry. That's not good. We have this. This is because UI can give life to string. URL can enable us for integration. Because what? I have another triple. Because think about data integration. You are not the only person handle data. Tons of other people from other side handle different data. You even never met them. You even never know it. So they provide another one. Then for this is just a graph. So then you add another triple here, graph. So how do you know these nodes are connected? Okay, and if they have same URL, we will connect this one. For instance, this is the Troglitazone, is a drug. They bind to this PPARG, right? And this PPARG, maybe they bind another target. For another triple, they bind another target. Once they come to the graph, and if they have same URL, and they are connected. So basically, this Troglitazone bind to this PPARG, also bind another target. So you can easily connect data together through this URL. Of course, URL have some issues, but this is the main idea for semantic technology. Use this format and URL to be able to represent data and connect data. Okay. Okay, based on this idea, hey, we want to focus on drug discovery. So we identify around 25 different databases talk about drug discovery, relation to drug and target. Okay, so this is all the different database. This is all open database. We have no money to buy expensive private data. So this is all open database. We actually connect them. Just following, convert everything into triple. So a drug has a name, drug name. The drug bind to target. So go to drug bank, you can get this information and convert it. So we actually get a lot of like 31 million chemical structure. We have like 59 million data points. Around 5,000 drugs, this is all coming from drug bank. For the publication, this data was generated in 2010. At that time, PubMed is around 19 million, but we didn't use all of this. We just use latest, the 3 million articles. So we create this data. We're very happy and excited. What we can do next? Okay, so we dump. So this we call this chem to bio to RDF data. Okay, and this data enable to be able to be called linked data. You don't just only link your own data. You need to link other existing linked data. So we did link to other existing. For instance, there's other group actually in Canada try to convert all this database into RDF, so-called bio to RDF. Actually, the leader just moved to Stanford School of Medicine, so he's still doing this. We actually connect with their data as well. We connect in Europe. They have the linked open drug data group. We connect to their data. Always will create some other third-party data. So make us as really linked data. Then we dump to the triple store. So you can think triple store is just NoSQL database, graph database. Okay, that time we use Virtuoso. Okay, for the Virtuoso, just when you dump it, they will provide interface that you can browse things. For instance, you find a drug, bind in the target, right? The target that's in drug bank. The target has URL connected to I think to the protein, UniPro, then you go to another database. Just leads you go to different database. And we have the Sparkle endpoint. If you've been able to write complete Sparkle query, you could type here and test your query. And we more interested in actually provide external service. So we have some visualization tool, and we connect to Cytoscape. So Cytoscape is one of the popular information visualization tool in medical domain. We create this tool called linked path generation and ranking, because when you generate a Sparkle query, you need to know the pattern, path pattern. And we've tried to help you to identify certain patterns, so you don't need to find by yourself. And we link to other third party. For instance, so sig.mar, because now it doesn't work. That time, it's one of the, they crawl all the RDF triple on the web and provide indexing and search. So it's kind of RDF triple search engine. We connect to that. So for instance, I want to show you an example. So by connecting all this data, you really have some power. Okay, let's look at this. This is the one side effect called hepatomegaly. So it's actually fat liver. Okay, and that side effect caused by these two compounds. These two compounds mentioned in drug bank has these two IDs. Okay. In drug bank, they say two ID bind to these two target, so these two protein. And then this go to UniPro, right? It's a database. In the UniPro, they say this gene is same, this target is same as these two genes, right? And that two genes actually participate in this pathway called calcium signaling pathway. So basically, you can see the power now. You just send one query. They actually go through several different databases. They go to drug bank, right? Go to first site is the database, then go to drug bank, then go to UniPro, then go to gene ontology, then go to KGG pathway. So it's kind of like send one query, go through different things, and show the results. You can see the power of connecting data. Also, this is actually most linked open data are now doing these things, but we still feel like we need to move next step. So we think we need the semantics, because one drug can have a different name. For instance, I have a troglitazone binds PPARG. Also have another triple called romazine. Romazine binds to PPARG. So actually, troglitazone, romazine are the same drug. But if you ask me, I have no clue because I'm not a DOM expert. I will think there's two triples. Actually, they are the same one. So you need to merge these triple together, really merge them together. Not just use same as. I think same as has a problem because same as actually give you actual paths, actual length of things for you to discover, and actually give you certain way of noisy. But of course, if you don't have a central controlled integration, same as might works for decentralized data integration. Okay, so we create ontology. So this ontology really just talking about different entities. And that time really focused on the interaction. We focus on interaction. We're interested in how nodes are connected. So therefore, we have a drug, we have side effect, we have disease. That's all major entity. And we plug in with their disease ontology, drug ontology. And we really focus on interaction. This we developed like 30 different interactions, class and subclass for interactions. So basically, after doing this, it's a very lengthy kind of semi-manual work, semi-automatic work, and we could be able to get all these entities really unified. For instance, a drug, a disease show up in OMIM database, and disease ontology really have just one URL, not a same as. And in the end, we have like 15,000 small molecule, and up to all these different entities, and this is the interactions, different interactions. And we're very excited because I call this knowledge graph, because with this you really can do some discovery, okay? These slides I want to show you, for current linked data, if you don't really integrate them in a good way, your Sparkle query end up in really messy. So for instance, these are the two Sparkle query actually talk about the same thing. Try to find a target for troglitazone. Okay, troglitazone is a drug for type 2 diabetes. So if you don't really use ontology to really unify all these entities together, you have to search two things, union them. So basically, you have to go to binding DB to find this protein, and you have to go to drug bank to find another protein, and then unify them. So basically, you are actually searching two databases and merge things together. To me, it's not a big difference compared to relational database. And if we really integrate together, this query looks very intuitive to people. Like, for instance, I want to find the distinct target. And this target has a label, drug name, right? Then this drug has interaction. This interaction has target. So this is the target we want to find. So I just found the target for that drug. And that relationship is actually true. That true means I see 50 less than 10,000. And we use regular expression to say the drug names. So this looks very intuitive to domain expert. So after we found this knowledge graph, we want to do some cool discovery process. We say, oh, what we can do with the graph? The most naive way you can do is think about, oh, find the path, right? Find the connection between this one node to. So for instance, give me a drug, give me a target. I want to find the connection of this, right? So okay, you have lots of algorithms available now. It's very scalable. For instance, like Dijkstra algorithm, you can easily get all these connections. But the problem is, we found it. Between one drug and target, we have like 2,000 connections. And you don't want to give 2,000 connections as a result, right? So you want to be able to rank them or to distinguish them. So how we do, so remember, as I say, we have a PubMed articles. This is textual data. So what we do, we learned in data mining, there's a topic model called LDA, which has been has been applied in different domains. So we actually extend this LDA, create bio LDA. So you can bio entity as one of the variable. So basically use this, we can learn any topic. So if we apply to the abstract and the title of the PubMed article, we can get the topic distribution, topic vectors for each of the entity. Okay, then we have a path, right? The paths are just different entities. And then we calculate KL divergence of the pair. And then we normalize, then we have a path weight. Then we rank the path based on the path weight. I show you one example. We apply this bio LDA to these 300,000 PubMed articles, and we extract 50 topics. These are the one of the topics. Actually, result is actually pretty good. When you look at the word, you see this topic is about the depression, okay, disorder, depression. Okay, and then you see the by terms, and this is all disease. Actually, this disease is all talking about different disorder. You say depression disorder, yeah, bipolar disorder, okay? And if you go to here, see this probability, topic probability, you see the first one is the drug. This drug dealing with the disorder, depression. And you have these two gene, actually target or gene, they actually relate to disorder. And then you have this disease relate to disorder. So it's pretty good, it makes sense. We actually, yeah. So we actually, based on this, we could be able to rank the path and give you meaningful subgraph that you can see the result. And for the subgraph, and we talk to domain expert, and some people say, oh, I want to have all these nodes are genes. All this, I don't want to see any other different type. So we develop diversity functions that either encourage or penalize the different type of entities. So we can make sure that our graph show up has all the same entity or different entities. We also develop algorithm that some people, the biologists, want to see how two nodes are connected through the third nodes. So you can search the graph all passing through the third nodes. Here I will show you one example. So these are the three drugs for type 2 diabetes. Troglitazone withdraw in 2000 because of the liver disease problem. And the rosiglitazone actually has a cardiac disease, also withdrawn. And poxglitazone now is still in the market, but was associated with bladder tumors and caused some kidney problem. So let's look at how they connected. I'm not sure whether you can see carefully. Oh, really? Okay. So remember, rosiglitazone has myocardial infarction, so it's like kind of a cardiac disease, and they are connecting through these 5 genes. 5 genes. So we look at these 5 genes. All these things in red means they're bad genes. They cause congestions, and these green genes are good. So therefore, rosiglitazone has this myocardial infarction. And remember, Troglitazone only have a liver problem. It's not related to heart failure. So, and they actually not connect with these bad genes. They are connected with the good genes. Therefore, they don't have any heart failure problem, but they have other problem. Okay. Then rosiglitazone currently is still in market, but we found they are connecting with myocardial infarction because they are connecting with this gene, and that gene will involve the fatty acid. It's a bad gene. Actually, by literature, it is because rosiglitazone can create some fluid retention, cause congestive heart failure. Okay. So this shows the power. If we could be able to connect data, we already can discover or maybe prevent some future disaster. Okay. Okay. So after we see the association between two nodes, we want to see what is the future. We want to predict. So when you do prediction, there's lots of prediction available in social networks, right? The major principle actually common neighbors. So if I have lots of people follow me, I have lots of followers, and for instance, if I have friends and we two share similar friends, then we in the future will become a friend. So this is a common prediction model actually in social network. But this won't work in biology because all these common neighbors are known knowledge, no surprise. They won't have a surprise. How do you get surprise to the network? So you go further, right? So I don't have a direct connection, I have an indirect several paths. But the problem is for social network, when you're 6 degrees separation, if you go 6 steps further, you are connected with everybody, right? So how do you back up this connection? For instance, like in social network, I co-author with A co-author with B. And you think I will co-author with C? Not really, because I never see him, I never met him, right? So we back up this path, use path patterns. So we want to discover what is the connection between drug and target, use path pattern. So we developed this web service called Semantic Prediction. It gives me a compound we can predict what is potential drugs. So the idea actually is certain patterns. For instance, if drug 2 bind target 1 and drug 1 and drug 2 share substructure similarity, share some side effect, chemical ontology, gene expression, we think my drug 1 also bind target 1. Another way around for target, you have a different kinds of target, right? For target, share different similar sequence, 3D structure, gene ontology, ligand. And when drug 1 bind target 2, we might think drug 1 also bind target 1. So let's see, we see the connection between troglitazone and PPARG through all these different things. These connect through chemical ontology, through target, and through some gene. So if they fulfill certain patterns, we could be able to predict in the future that troglitazone might bind PPARG. So we consider topology of the graph. For instance, if these two compounds all share substructure, but when this substructure is more rare than the other substructure, we give different weight to this topological difference. And a semantics, for instance, for this protein has different relations. Binding, shared gene ontology, has protein-protein interactions. We give different weight to these different patterns. So pipeline is how we develop this web service. Is actually, this is the raw data. We use ontology to create them as a knowledge graph. Then we make them as the semantic linked data. And we find the connection between two nodes. And we try to find the patterns. And based on the pattern, how they connected, we calculate the edge weight and pass score, and we normalize it, and we provide the prediction. So it's a very simple, straightforward method. I didn't talk about details. If you want to know details, we can talk offline. So we actually cross-check this with some existing result. So the C result published in Nature in 2009, actually they compare these 184 new compound target pairs. 30 was experimentally tested. Around this 30, 25 was experimentally valid. Okay, and then among these 23, 15 was one kind of different GPCR targets, and 8 are cross major receptor kind of connection. And among these 15, we be able to identify 9. 6 we couldn't because 6 are not even in our data. Among these 8, we predict 1. So the result is not that bad. And interesting thing is we can create kind of interesting disease drug map. So we actually take these 157 drugs against like 1,500 human target. We use SLAP. If they have association greater than 0.9, we will have H here. And a different color means different disease. And you can see some drugs can actually cross-cue different disease. For instance, you can see the upper corner there, and the yellow color actually hypertension. And the drugs for hypertension can also deal with the grade 1. Grade 1, you can say fever. Okay, so actually, when drugs can deal with different disease. And you can see other connection. This is also different disease. This is a different disease. And here, also different disease. And that is, so you can, one drug can use for different purpose. So it's like drug repurposing. Okay, I think I end my 2 examples. I will finish my talk by highlighting challenge. Okay, so I want to go back to my vision. Actually, string to thing. I think generating entity, it's not trivial. Okay, it's a difficult thing because give the identifier to entity, it's normally done centralized. But we are living in decentralized, web is decentralized, distributed. How we could be able to handle the URL issue? I have many different UI, and how people know this UI actually means the same person, right? Unless people know me. Okay, and to give the semantics to the thing, to add the tag to the string, to make them to be a thing, the tag, how computer could be able to understand city tag, different compared to university tag. So how should we do that? Second, relationship, manage relationship. Yeah, as we talk about how we will see a lot of problem or example, we need to model property of properties. And how can we model properties? And in the VIVO example, we leave them as a class. But actually, you will have a long path, and your Sparkle query really complicated. What are the better way to do this? And especially in the future, when search engine has to rank result based on the relation. How do you rank a search relation? That can be a very interesting topic to look at this. And the third one is the context, the subclass, right? Subclass. What is a subclass? Subgraph actually is a contextual information. What is contextual information? When you do data integration, you have to do provenance, right? Where data come from? How they being connected, right? So provenance. And many people say triple is not enough. We use quad because you cannot say everybody says something about something. So this is what Semantic I want to be able to provide. And triple is not enough to model that. And provenance has all different level of provenance. You can say who says what is data provenance, how data being generated. For instance, 40 Fahrenheit. Is that important? If you important for you to organize event, you really want to know how this 40 Fahrenheit being calculated and how this 40 Fahrenheit connect to other web service to generate something, how the workflow provenance. So it's all different level of provenance. Of course, we have many others. We have a query efficiency problem. We have data security problem. We have data quality problem. I think this is my Google. I searched Google found me, and it says I already died in 1964. But anyway, I believe big data plus big challenge will give us unlimited potential. So I really want to do connect, share, and discover. So this is my talk.
Very much. We have time for some questions.
Especially in the first part of your talk, you talked a lot about ontologies and mapping ontologies. This works when there's pure synonyms, pure antonyms, and pure relations. This tends to occur only in very narrow communities or highly technical areas.
Yes.
In normal language, exact synonyms are really quite rare, and meanings are unstable. This suggests that this approach can't be generalized. So what's the solution?
Yeah, Okay, this is the people always want to ask, say, semantic web. It's been taught like 10 years ago. I never see the web. The problem, I view semantic web as a technology. It's not, we will not see a web. It's a kind of technology. This technology is really good at specific domain. For instance, in medical domain, and in mathematics, in finance, they are using ontology to glue their data together. But you can't use this for the whole social network. So for instance, you can see the difference between the ontology. For instance, like a gene ontology is really gene domain, right? You see lots of class. You have like 15,000 genes in a class, right? You only have a few relationships, like 3 or 4, 5 relations, because you have your domain is established, is a fact, it won't change, and that's good. For social, for instance, friend of friend, they all have like few class. People, like organization, for instance, people, I want to model adult. So different country has different requirements. So if like say adult is like you have to be age more than 18 years old, or some other countries say you have to be more than 21 years old. You cannot say just adult as a group. So for that things, you have very few class because it's very hard to retrieve consensus. You try to generate variety different subclass or unique class by using properties. So we give you a very few class. We give you tons of properties. You look at the friend of friend. And if you want to model your own country adult, and you can add has a person has age, what level, and you say you call this as a named class. Yeah. So I believe the semantic web is actually not really good for the social. It's good for certain established domains.
Hi. I was just wondering how your model takes into account sort of new evidence. So your model might predict that these two drugs act on the same genes and should have the same effect, but it's completely possible that there is actually no noted effect in history. You might say that they should have this, but they don't. So how would you incorporate sort of new facts into this model that predicts things that don't happen?
Yeah, this is a very good question because semantic technology is not very good at handling versioning. So basically, you have to keep on updating your data, right? You have to, every time you have a new data or new evidence, you convert them into your knowledge base, your knowledge graph. And the semantic web is very slow because first you have to develop ontology, right? Then you annotate data according to the ontology. Most people say once the technology being developed, it's already out of date. So you have a new thing. So because they have this not a direct update, indirect. You have to go back to update the ontology, and then re-annotate data and come back to gather data. So it takes time. So I mean, I do believe this kind of thing. I believe when here we talk about discovery, we always talk about statistically. We don't talk about logic. Because statistically, you don't need to do all these data things, you just do it. I all believe in the future they need to balance, combine. I mean, statistically, you can do correlation on this, but correlation is not causation. And when you get something, you hard to explain how the statistical inference being developed. With ontology, of course, it's slow down thing, but can provide something you can explain and you can trust because provenance to see how the steps that things was inferred. Yeah.
Other questions?
Thank you. Sure. Dr. Ling, I have two questions. Let me just start with the first one. And that concerns the sharing amongst the databases, the chemical databases, for instance. You mentioned that there's a whole slew of them out there. And your research concentrated on a sample of them, I guess, if I understood that properly, to try and integrate them in some way. Now, the ideal in chemistry, I imagine, is to integrate them all someday.
Yeah.
When will that happen, and how will it happen?
Yeah, I talked to the expert. They say, so do you know Chem Spider?
Oh, no, I'm not at all familiar with chemistry. So.
Yeah, so so data integration, I really tell you at different level. It's like a provenance, really different level. And even in the chemistry domain, they have challenge how to merge all these compounds together because currently they have three different compound ID. Even the compound can be divided into major compound, divided into smaller molecule. Or, I mean, not domain expert. So it's even for them, it's domain-wise, it's a challenge. For us, what we did in this example, actually we take these three three compound ID that most database use. We just merge them, like based on the expert, based on the expert. We spent like around a year to create this knowledge graph. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the different level of integration.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it remains a big challenge.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
bring it
I
all
believe
together.
this integration will continue at different level, parallel.
Shall I go on to the second question? Second question. There will come a day when science will be done by computers rather than people.
Yeah.
Now, does that imply that the production of research, the research products, will not be output in natural language, but in some other form, more based on, well, I don't know what. I would like to get your view on that, and eventually translate it into natural language, of course, for our usage probably, but that's another issue.
Yeah, this is a very good question. People already working on this direction. You might heard about semantic publishing. So in certain publisher already start things. I think because actually why we don't have knowledge innovation, because all the paper published in non-machine readable, machine can't read, people read, PDF, right? People read and you consume, then you understand something. If we already, so it's slowed down tremendously, lots of process. People propose, especially group in Holland, in Netherlands, they propose why we don't, like when you publish article, you give keyword, right? Why we don't give some kind of machine readable format of a result, okay, publish on the same time. And that kind of result will merge to the knowledge base right away, right? Yeah, and this is a lot of advantage. One thing for publisher, they have incentive because this is like an advertisement. I'd say my paper has these things, so people will have incentive to cite. And if you say sell $30 per article, they have incentive to buy because they think the result is important, right? And second thing is, all this, if many people say the same result, actually we read a lot of articles, actually they talk about the same thing. But we can't read all of them, right? We don't really know this. If this knowledge base keep on saying there's 100 articles says the same result, and then we know this result is trustworthy. So you really can base on problems to say which result is better. And the result from knowledge graph, you can already do this discover, two nodes and connections. You can already start right away. So people really propose in the future that you should publish some machine readable format of result right away. I think like major publisher, Elsevier, Springer, they are exploring this kind of potential, yes. It's been a hot topic. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any last question? Okay.
So I'm hearing two things from you. One, that these techniques are only good for established domains where you can have a reliable ontology, and that also in the evolution of them, they're going to have to take into account issues of provenance and context that the information is coming in. Yeah. There seems to be a contradiction there. Can you elaborate on how you see a path forward?
Yeah, I don't see. Can you please explain what is the contradictory of this?
Well, if things like the provenance of knowledge production is a social process, where the ontologies are not so clear.
In the provenance, you actually don't need to have. Provenance ontology is very simple. So provenance ontology teach you how you can write something. Like it's not necessarily has to be connected to a domain ontology. Like other ontology, you only say, for instance, I say today is 40 Fahrenheit. And who says I? I is a provenance. You just say this statement was said by this person. Or this statement was issued by weather.com. This is the provenance. You don't need to be connected with the ontology part. So therefore, you can do these things.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for a great talk. People have other questions.
Okay. Welcome.